Hello everybody, this is Shayla, and today we have a Warsong Gulch gameplay with some commentary. Now we have two games today. They both went different ways, but let's just get right into it. Okie dokie. So I'm starting off as Holy here. Just spawned in. I'm wearing my time on target Templar set. It works very well with Holy Talons, and immediately I get shocked over here. So we got some people trying to pick up the flag. I'm gonna just whittle them down. Now, Holy Melee does fantastic in PvP just because if you have some spell power gear, like some tier 2.5 ret or something like that, you have amazing self-healing, you have amazing sustain, and you have decent damage output. It's not as good as red, obviously, but you can hold your own in some spell power gear. Especially that tier 2.5. Tier 2.5 is my favorite tier set in the game. I think a close second would be Holy 3. I'm excited to see how tier 3.5 shakes out. I saw some people complaining on the Paladin Discord, but I am hopeful. I know that there is a very nice neck I'm looking forward to getting. But yeah, we're just gonna do our best to stay alive. Unfortunately, this team is keeping up a tremendous amount of pressure. They had a lot of shamans, I noticed. Shaman is definitely one of the stronger classes of the patch currently. It'll be interesting to see what sort of state of affairs they're in once Kara comes out. Who knows whether we'll see some additional nerfs or if their power scaling stays the same. I personally, we're going to try to kill this flag carrier here, but as an aside, I personally do not care if shamans are powerful. The only thing I'd like to see, my only consideration would be that paladins should be on the same power level as shamans. So if paladins are overperforming and shamans are underperforming, you should buff the shamans. You should not nerf the paladins, because if you nerf paladins and you buff shamans, now shamans are more powerful and paladins, so there's that power imbalance is still there, it's just flipped. You might be placating the shamans, but now you've pissed off the paladins, and there is still an imbalance. I mean, I don't care about imbalance personally. I think the game is more fun when it is not balanced. I think everybody should be pushed to the max, balls to the wall, as crazy as possible. But if your whole point with the nerf of paladin is to make things more balanced, well, now that balance, it's still as unbalanced, it's just the power, the balance of power is skewed towards shamans now. So instead of nerfing one and buffing the other, I say you even out the playing field. So shamans are in a good spot. Paladins are a little bit, they're not weak, but they're not nearly as overtuned as they were last patch. Shamans are definitely overtuned. I think paladins should be as overtuned as shamans are. We should be consistent with the power level. We shouldn't have one of the faction classes overperforming over the other. They should be at about the same place. But that's just my philosophy. I'm not a designer. I'm not a developer. I don't code. So I don't understand what their design philosophy is. I do, however, know that myself and some other long-term players were a little bit concerned at a few of the changes. Some of the changes were welcome, like 30-minute blessings, greater blessings, and 10-minute lesser blessings. That was welcome. But that's just how patches go. They get some things correct and some things they need to return back to the drawing board on. So I'm excited to see what it's looking like as far as balance goes when April comes around. I think it's April 2nd or April 3rd is the big day. I am not looking forward to redoing all of my UI. I know I can save some of my add-ons. However, there's things like Empower that have sort of specific to your game version, like sort of to your client, like the positioning of your auras and things like that. I'm not looking forward to taking a day setting everything up once we get a new client, you know, so that's going to be a bunch of work. But, you know, maybe somebody has a trick. If you have a trick to keep all of your add-on settings intact, I don't know if it's like, you know, in your ENUS or your cache or something like that, or if it's in your WTF folder or what. But if you know a trick to preserve how your add-ons are currently running, please let me know, and I will use that trick. It'll be greatly appreciated. So yeah, they are sort of kicking our ass here. You know, I'm doing my best where I can. You know, you have games where your team does well, and then you have games where you guys underperform. So, you know, you just have to keep that in mind. Some games are going to be not very fun. Some games are going to be a blast. It's just the nature of player versus player content. You know, and in the games where you're losing, you have two options, really. I mean, you can try to persevere and, you know, hunker down and, you know, really get clear with your communication and, you know, give good call outs, or you can sort of chalk it up as a loss and just sort of go for honor kills. You see, the thing about that last option, if everybody on your team does that, it's a guaranteed loss. However, if everybody on your team sort of focuses up and they sit up in their chair and they you know, start giving really clear you know, fast communications, then you could turn the game around. You know, I've seen games turn around, but it really depends on where your team's energy is. It doesn't matter where your energy is. You might be determined to win. If the team as a collective isn't determined to win, well, then you guys are going to lose. If the team as a collective is determined to win, well, then you guys will, well, you guys are more likely to win. I'm not going to guarantee it. We got a loud car. Alrighty, and again, since I'm in my time on target Templar, I'm getting crazy mana regeneration. I'm going to drop a light on this priest just so the rogue gets some passive healing just off of beating them up, sort of like an incentive. You can incentivize your teammates to hit somebody by dropping seals on them. You know, they might want to hit one person, but if somebody's low and you drop a seal of light, they're like, well, I get some, you know, a passive 300 health, you know, just by smacking into this guy for 4 seconds, so I'm going to do that. So you can sort of incentivize where people are targeting. So that's a neat thing to keep in mind with your seals. And these smite priests are really something else this patch. I mean, I got one myself. But a really geared smite priest is a very formidable foe, and you can't tell exactly when they're gonna get a crit either. So you're always on your toes. The best thing to do against a smite priest is just not let them cast, because the second they get one crit, they're gonna get a searing light proc, and they're gonna just zap you. They're gonna blow you up. So it's you definitely want to be careful around the smite priest. And just clearing people, keeping people up as we go. I keep getting message from all these other holy paladins about rank 1 flash of light. They're like, why are you using max rank? Why are you using max rank? You know, rank 1 heals just as much, and it's way more mana efficient. You know, it costs you like 80 mana, yada yada yada. And my whole thing is like, well, we lost that one. Yeah, you win some, you lose some. Well, my whole thing with Flash of Light is I'm in Battlegrounds and I'm in Nax, and I rarely forget to. I just want the most powerful everything when I'm in Naxxramas, you know, just because you never know. People go down in like a blink of an eye, so you know, the more powerful, the better. But I never like switch back to rank 1 unless I go into a dungeon. That's when I'll switch back to rank 1. But even when I'm PvPing, I want the most powerful rank Flash of Light. You know, for the most amount of health points, you know, the most amount of healing value. So that's sort of why I use max rank. It is wiser in a PvE scenario, in a player versus environment scenario, like raids and dungeons. It is wiser to use rank 1 because you're basically only going to heal for about 100 points less using your rank 1 version if you have enough healing power. It's very efficient, it scales very well, especially if you have Blessing of Light. However, if you are in a PvP scenario where every amount of health counts, it's the difference between you know, making a play versus you know, losing a play. You're going to want to use that max rank. And the thing about me is, the second I hop out of raids, I will usually take a half an hour to an hour break, and then I'm immediately queuing into the Battlegrounds, or I'm farming. So it really depends on you know, what my focuses are. But yeah, right now my focuses for the next week and a half or so are getting ready for Karazhan. I have my Arcane Resistance set complete. We have all of the enchants on the head and the legs for Arcane Resistance, so that's an additional 50 points. We're at 157 Arcane Resistance right now. I think I'm sporting something like 700 healing power. It's not factoring in my shield, so my shield gives me about another 170 healing power, because of the paladin talent, the one that makes 2% of your armor value, gives you that amount in healing power. So whatever 2% of your armor is, you get that as a bonus to healing power. It makes shields really good for holy. But yeah, I'm just gonna do my best to clear this flag room. Try to pick up the flag if I can. Luckily, I've got a teammate here. They're gonna give me some backup healing, and I think I might be able to just barely eke out a win. Yep, and I'm using the Earthshaker. Now, the Earthshaker is going to be Abyss weapon for PvP. If you have good gear, the DPS loss does not really matter. What the reason why we're using this, and the reason why this is so good, is that AoE stun effect is invaluable. You can just, especially if people are clumped up, like you have enemies that are standing next to each other, you can just AoE stun like 5 or 6 different people. If you are chasing down the flag carrier, super good. It stops everybody surrounding them. So if they've got a bunch of healers near them, or if they've got a bunch of people trying to peel, you shut everything down for 3 seconds. And that 3 seconds is enough to keep people from healing. So if you've got a bunch of mages and a bunch of casters, you can do enough damage to kill the enemy flag carrier and return the flag. Or that 3 seconds is enough for you to get a 1.5 second Holy Light off with your Divine Judgment or your Holy Judgment talent. So again, in PvP, that thing is going to be nasty. And again, if you have the gear for it, you don't really notice the DPS loss. I mean, you're probably hitting maybe like 20% less hard, but with an AoE stun, I mean, it just makes combat so much easier just because it disrupts your enemy's train of thought. They can barely think because they don't know when the next stun is going to happen. And the neat little thing about that, I like little proc-based game styles, so like combat styles. So I'm working on a holy melee, healing melee build right now, and it's proc-based. So we're going to be using Breath of Solnius. Whenever that procs, you change your rotation, and the Earthshaker's just like that. So whenever it procs, you're immediately you're gonna stop and you're gonna cast a Holy Light, a 1.5 second Holy Light, and you're still gonna have time to judge or swing your sword. So yeah, you should look into getting an Earthshaker if you haven't. I've also put Icy on it, just so it slows people down 50%. So I have, it's just like Frost Oil, except it also slows the swing time of your enemy down by 20%. It's really good against warriors and rogues, and it sort of makes them panic too, just because not only are they slowed, like not only can they not move as fast, not only are they being stunned constantly, so it makes them freak out because they can't predict when they're going to be disrupted. Not only is it good just, you know, for warriors and all that, it interrupts casters. It's really the I don't want you to go anywhere, I don't want you to cast anything. It's really the most disruptive weapon you can use is an Earthshaker with an Icy weapon. Back when we were able to proc our weapon on command with Seal of the Crusader, and remember what they took from you. Oh my god, like when we had Holy Shock and we were capable of forcing procs, that was when Paladin was the most fun. I understand that it was not the most fun to fight, but oh my god, that was look at that, look at those procs. That's exactly what I'm talking about. See how everybody in that vicinity, see how they can't do anything? And look, my team is wiping them because they just can't, they can't get their bearings. You know, every time they like think they know what's going on, they get stunned, or they focus on me and then they get focused. So again, Earthshaker is going to be Biss. I think it's better than Might of Menethol, not because you're doing more damage, but you can completely shut down a battle. You know, you become MVP just because none of the enemies can do a goddamn thing. Just because you're swinging that thing, you're busting it up, you're shaking the earth. You know, you got that Earthshaker going blammo. You know, it's going off. Look into that. You really need to look into an Earthshaker. But yeah, when we had Holy Shock doing damage, and when we were able to, because think about it, you can judge on 8 seconds cooldown. So every 8 seconds, you would have a 10-yard AoE stun with Earthshaker. It was so good. And with things like Ashbringer and Naztec, the Blood Drinker, the draining two hands, you would be able to have a 8-second leech. So you'd drain about 300 health from your opponent, and you'd gain it back. And sometimes it would crit, sometimes it would double proc. Sometimes a proc would proc another proc, so you just like get 3 procs in a row and just get like 1,000 HP. It was a great time to be Paladin. And then everybody complained, and they changed it. And now we're still in a good spot. You know, if you are a skilled Paladin, you can still do some fantastic things with this class. But now Shamans are sort of having their glory days as a class. So for the past 3 years or so, I do remember when I first started playing Paladin had not changed from its original classic talents. So there were no changes to the talent trees. There were no changes to the spell. This is pre-Holy Strike. So this is before Holy Strike was even in the game. When I first started Shayla, this character. There were no changes whatsoever, and I was just happy to be healing. The two big things that sort of gave Paladins their power was the Holy Strike, the crazy old school Holy Strike, which is gonna live in every Paladin's heart, rent-free, until they die. On their deathbed, they're gonna have a flashback, and they are going to see a 3,000 crit Holy Strike in a flashback, and their brain's gonna explode, and they're gonna be like, you know what, I did it right. Yeah, that version of the spell, I hope we see it again. I mean, I hope they make classic Turtle WoW, and it's just the high jaw patch where the game was so beautifully tuned. It was my favorite time to play the game. So we didn't know what we had. Remember what they took from you. If you weren't playing Paladin then, you have no clue how much fun the class was to play. You know, that old school Holy Strike and the old school Crusader Strike, they didn't share a cooldown, so you were always clicking a button. It was just the best time to be a I can't tell you how great of a time it was. It was, you know, I will remember that for the rest of my life. But I'd like to avoid those scenarios where one class is sort of, you know, they're spending all their or it's their season, like they're the flavor of the month. I would just like all classes to be overtuned. Like overtune everyone. You know, make it crazy fun. Make fights last for about 10 seconds. Make it busted. You know, I want to see mages two-shotting people. I want to see shamans one-shot. I want to see everybody should just one-shot. Everybody should have a spell that does 6,000 damage. Base static, no crit. I'm being facetious, of course. I'm being sarcastic, but I do think everybody should be as powerful as possible while keeping it realistic and balanced. You know, because nobody wants everybody to do 6k damage in reality. Everybody wants to do 6k damage sometimes, you know, maybe like 5% of the time, you know, you want to get just like a crazy, you know, like, oh my gosh, you know, like crazy, like 4k damage, you know, spell or something like that. But realistically, like I wouldn't want to play Paladin if every time I Holy Strike it just did, you know, 6k damage and it just one shot. It like Touch of Death them, if you're familiar with the monk spell. You know, that's so whack and lame. So there's a balance when it comes to balance, you know. You want to be powerful sometimes, but you don't want to be so powerful that defeats the purpose. There's no reason to play. I mean, there's no battle. You're just existing, you know. Balance is important, so I'm gonna trust them. I'm hoping that they know better than me, since they're the developers, you know. And you know, I've enjoyed my time playing the game so far. So I would be a fool to not trust them. Do I expect them to get everything right in the first go? And by them, I'm talking about the designers and the developers. No, I don't expect them to get everything right in the first go. But I do expect them to listen to feedback and, you know, listen to constructive criticism. You know, listen to the general tone of the players. But I do trust them. I do trust them to, because they clearly care about the game. You know, they would not put all this love, you know, sweat and tears into a 20-year-old game if they did not genuinely care about it. And we're all WoW lovers here, and we all wish for the success of the game. So we should probably, you know, conduct ourselves with that love and respect, you know, as a community. And I know that's crazy because, you know, on the internet people do not treat each other with love and respect. But, you know, if we're all coming together around this game, we're all, you know, hoping for a good time when we log in. We should keep that energy, that hopeful energy, that energy of like, you know what, this is my passion, this is what I like to do in my spare time, you know, this makes life fun, it makes life worth living, so I am going to treat this with a respect and a reverence. And it's not like, you know, you treat it like church, you know. I mean, if you want to treat Turtle WoW like your church, more power to you, go crazy. If the server goes down, you're going to be godless. But you should have, it's sort of like a respect for martial art, or respect for an art, sort of like a respect for painting, you know, how you wouldn't paint certain things, or an artist with integrity wouldn't paint, you know, something they wouldn't, you know, personally want to see, because they don't want to add that to the world, you know. They wouldn't add an image that they would find troubling or disturbing. You know, there are some artists that have no integrity. And that's sort of like game designers that have no integrity. You know, there are some game developers that just want to make as much money as possible, and they want to keep you playing as much as possible. That's sort of where Blizzard is at right now. I understand they're a Fortune 500 company and whatnot, but that's where a lot of us see the game is at. Is, you know, it's a game without integrity. When you play, you should play with integrity. You know, and I hope when they design the game, I hope they design it with integrity. You know, I hope they're not just doing things because they play the class, or doing things because they would like to see this. I hope they're creating changes that they think would actually be helpful for the game and the health of the community. Well, that's going to be it for me. We end up winning this one. If you like this video, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Have a good day. Peace.